said, really, as far as those, in the world today who are basically silencing free speech, he said it's not the conservatives who are doing that.
Oh
He
no,
said,
it's the left, definitely.
yeah, he said you
Mm,
go to any college campus
mm,
and, hear any conservative try to speak and being shouted down or being ushered out. He
mm,
said it's the left. They are the guys who are silencing free speech
mm.
and the guys who are opposed to it. I'm like, I'm glad to see one of them is actually admitting that now.
They don't even, I mean, they don't even approve of classical liberals, do they? Even classical liberals are not far enough to the left
That,
for them.
yeah.
Um, I suspect that's probably where Bill Maher is. He's probably a classical liberal, I suspect. Uh,
Yeah,
I think.
basically, he would be, again, the guy who would say, okay, let's have a debate on this. Let's
Mm,
go ahead and have, I will argue the left side, you argue the right side,
mm,
and let's, see, who wins or whatever. But again, he said with the left today on the college campuses and
mm.
stuff, he said, and it's, I don't know if, how they are over in the UK, but, even over here,
Mm,
Jerry Seinfeld, who's a comedian, and Chris Rock is a comedian. They're stand-up comics.
mm.
They both say they will never do comedy shows on college campuses again.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, because they said
Yeah.
the college people have no sense. You can't make sport of anything anymore. And they said humor, the essence of humor is that it is going ahead and sort of taking things and maybe playing them up for a little bit more than they are and stuff. But they say that college people in America have no sense of humor. I
Mm,
mean, like you cannot. I mean, and that Nick joke or something, forget it. You will be. That's the end of you.
mm.
And any kind of almost anything that would touch on contemporary like social issues, you got to avoid that like the plague because again, college kids have been brainwashed into
Yeah.
thinking there's only one way that you can approach these things and you can't make sport of anything or anybody anymore, and that's why Seinfeld and Rock both. So that's it. We're off the college campus, kind of comedy tour. We're not doing any more of that. We don't need any more of
Yeah,
that.
I mean, this is I suppose a failure of the educational establishment. It's been allowed to go much further than I mean, academia. I think has always been on the more or less on the left throughout its history, but it's much more so now
Yeah.
than any time. I suspect it's. I mean, certainly in the States. I don't. I think I don't know if you've heard of Neil Ferguson, but
Yeah.
he's a prominent British historian, and
I've read a lot of stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Well, he's based in the US now. But he's been over here, obviously warning our university, our institutions not to go the same way, warning Oxford and Cambridge to hang on to their free speech traditions, which by and large they are still managing to do just about, but a lot of pressure from the left though, definitely. But he said basically that he can't. He always assumed that you only see this sort of phenomena happen in a totalitarian state where there's a dictator in place. He never thought that this sort of phenomenon could start to take hold in a democratic uh, Western countries, which and he just I think he just blames the decay of the educational establishment. I mean, say when he was a student, Harvard was one of the top class
Oh yeah.
universities of the world. He now states it's a laughing stock. I don't know. I mean, does this affect every single institution in America, or is it only the elite ones that it's more of a problem?
Well, it's hard to say because there are so many, institutions of higher education in America. There are some good ones, but for whatever reason, the more kind of prestigious a university is, the more likely they are to be, basically honeycombed with,
Mm,
left-wing thinkers who will not allow, any other viewpoints. And, the it's like the old saying that birds of a feather flock together. Well, if you've got a university that is run by largely leftists, they're not going to say in their meetings, okay, well, we got about 90% of our faculty members tend to be on the left. Let's go ahead and hire a whole bunch of guys on the right to
Mm,
balance that out. No, they're going to say, okay, we get 90% of our guys on the left. Let's go ahead and get the other 10% and bring them on the left as well. So in a lot of places, you have a virtual shutting out, really.
mm,
Anybody who is to the right of kind of like, even like a center right type,
mm,
the sort of like the Mitt Romney or maybe the George W. Bushes or whatever, those guys would be considered absolute tyrannical, kind of right wingers in a lot of the universities. And therefore, there are, as I say, there are a couple of universities that are just trying to stand against this. There's Hillsdale College in Michigan, and then there's a few other smaller ones that have opened recently. But the whole idea there, like I know at Hillsdale, I was up for a job there. It's been a while ago now, about 10 years ago. I didn't get it, but I talked to one of the guys in the committee and got to be fairly friendly with him, and he said that Hillsdale now is nowhere near as conservative as they were then. And I said, well, why is that? He said, because we went ahead and we actually did hire a number of people who were on the left because we didn't want to get a reputation as doing to the left what they had done to us. So we went and hired a few people on the left, and now they are heading the hiring committees, and they're hiring only left-wing people in
mm.
literature and things like that. And I said, so you think? He said, well, probably in a generation or whatever. He said, we will be no different than most of the other, liberal left-wing American, universities, because
Mm.
again, it's kind of like you kind of get the kernel right in here, and then it spreads. It's
Yeah.
kind of like the beginning of any sort of a disease. You get a little germ in there before you know it,
I mean,
and
would you advocate? I suppose. I mean, a lot of people I hear about it say you just have to start again and just start up new institutions or go on open or go online learning or whatever, and other avenues of teaching of academia, and just bypass the old institutions which are no longer fit for purpose. I suppose the only other option maybe some sort of government intervention. Um, but I just don't see a simple, quick remedy to reverse this overnight, though.
no, I don't. As far as like government intervention, I think that probably would create more problems than it would solve.
Mm,
Because they would never be the ones who would be saying, "Okay, yeah, we've got a pronounced kind of a list toward leftism, and we need to solve that problem." How would they solve it? They would not have any idea how to do it. It
no.
probably would create a whole lot more problems. I don't know really, and but there are so many issues now that are just basically starting now to pop up with the problems in American higher ed. I don't know if it's the same over in the UK or not, but for the last, really 30 years or so, they have been ignoring all of the market realities out there by pushing kids to get degrees in women's studies, for instance. And
Right.
somebody, that's like some impressionable young woman
Mm,
goes ahead and gets her degree in women's studies, thinks
right.
she's going to conquer the world, steps out deeply in debt, and
Yeah.
finds out that there's not anybody out there impressed with a degree in women's studies.
No.
And, but you're never going to get the
Mm,
people, who peddled that degree to her to admit that they were wrong, and they're not going to admit either that, okay, well, we're sorry we fumbled the ball with you, but we're going to do better for the new people coming in. They're going to continue to go ahead and push kids into women's studies and into, kind of like sort of deconstructionism and literature and things like that. So all these, and, all this stuff too, they continue to say stuff that is not true. And, well, the problem in academia is that women are excluded from positions of influence. That's not true. You go to any American university, and really for about really the last 20 years, 25 years, they have been hiring women and they have been promoting them. They are all now academic vice presidents, they're deans and so forth. And if anything, it is now men who are being kind of just not given short shrift because they want to get women in there and that
Mm.
kind of thing. So, but they still say too many, there's just too many white men in academia. Well, show me a place where there's too many white men. I would like to see that myself. But there's that. And then, of course, these, idiotic, fields of study. And then, of course, the student loans where kids come out of college, they have no marketable skills and they're $200,000 in debt.
Mm.
All of this is now basically kind of coming together to create the perfect storm. And
Do you think that the solution there might be a market correction? Do you think people might vote with their wallets? Is that the only way it'll?
That's the only way I can see it actually happening,
Mm,
because see, what is happening in America right now, and I don't have all the numbers at my fingertips to back this up, but you do have a lot of men, a lot of males who are looking at, colleges and they're seeing that these are run by women and the kind of feminization of American education. And they're like, I don't need that. So you get a lot of guys who are actually going to trade schools. They are, going ahead and training for positions in construction
mm,
and, kind of, hands-on work and that kind of thing. Money's pretty good. You don't have to spend 4 years kind of spinning your wheels, and you
mm.
don't sit through a whole lot of lectures about white male patriarchy or anything. You get out there and you get to work.
Yeah,
So
that's a largely what's already happened in this country. There's much more. There's been much more of a push over the past few years for what we call over here vocational
yeah.
professional training qualifications. And my generation, I mean, we were sort of sold the. I mean, I did history for my degree. It was a perfectly respectable subject, but I mean, I think there was. I mean, we were still free to. I didn't experience any restrictions on free speech when I was at university or when I was at college. It was still pretty fair and open. Um, but yeah, a lot of the teaching staff I would say definitely more on the left than I don't think there were any conservatives. That's for sure. But or very few. But yes, it's yeah. I think yes. I think we were. I think when Blair, let's say Blair was in power at the time, and it was this drive. He had this policy of get 50% of young people to university. Regardless, there was no sort of rational reason for it. It's just a target he sort of plucked out of the air.
Yeah.
50% of young people, even though vast numbers of young people get nothing from it, as you say, but not necessarily for that reason, just because they don't need to go, or as you say, they can make more money doing what they're naturally gifted at, or what they can just move into a profession or a trade. So